Hey, welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial we will be making fractals in Blender geometry nodes, and this is something I found and it is relatively easy. So let's begin. You see it here in the background. I'll blend you a video in. It looks something like this, what we can do, and we can even do more. And it's incredible how much variety you have with you can use 4 nodes to make this kind of stuff. Let's start. We will be using Blender 3.1. 3.1 should be enough. Let's delete everything as usual and let's add back in a plane and let's drag this window up to go into the geometry nodes editor. So let's click on new to create a new node tree and let's begin. So basically the only thing fractals are, or my type of fractals are, that you have some kind of curve, a circle or a star, and you will instance the same star on the circle or star that you put before. So this is the only thing we will be doing. Then we maybe fill this curve. So let's begin. We can use a star and we can drag that here and we can take that out. And now we have a simple star. Yay! And now the next thing we will be doing is we will be instancing the same star on those points of our star before. So our star has now here a point, here a point, here a point, here a point, and they are connected with an edge, but the instance node puts the geometry on every point. So let's grab it. It is in the instances submenu, of course, and then we will be using the instances on points node like this. And we can turn on the timings on, but it's not that relevant, but we can see if something's really slow. And now the magic is we will be using the star again on the instance. And now you can see we are basically ready. So you can experiment with this a lot. So you can drag up the points, you can do everything with this. You can even make something like this. It's incredible how much you can do with that. So you can turn that, you can turn this, you can twist this. It's incredible. So yeah. So we can. So let's make something like this, some kind of star, and yeah, something like this. So these are our basic shapes. So these are all curves, and we can't see curves in the rendered mode here because they have no geometry or mesh data. So let's convert them into a mesh, and we can just use the curve fill curve node. So this just fills these empty things with faces, and this gives us mostly our effect. So let's put this here. This can be a bit buggy, so maybe I have to make some bug reports because this node is sometimes a bit strange. So if your Blender crashes at this point, don't mind, please save and then reopen again and try again. The problem is here, it fills every star we have put here, and we have 8 stars, but we want only one thing coming out of here. So we have to realize our instances. Here on the instances submenu, realize instances, so that this is all one piece. And now you can see this is basically our fractal. So we can change, as said, we can change everything. We can do so much with this. It's incredible. So let's use triangles because you can see it's a little bit faster. It should be default. And we can even use the new extrude node. So in the mesh submenu, we have here the extrude mesh node. So we have some kind of geometry, and let's set it to 0.1. Something like this. And this looks good. What if we would use a dual mesh? Yeah, this looks also interesting. Interesting. Yeah, we will don't use it this time. But yeah, now we have our basic fractal. So we can even use another thing here. So as I've said, we can use the star, but we can also use in the curve primitives here, we can also use the curve circle. And this gives us also interesting things. Like this looks amazing. Oh, don't turn the resolution a lot up. Yeah, this looks incredible. So you can do something like this. Sometimes there are some bugs, so I have to report this. This is weird. So I have no idea why something would cause this, but as said, I have to report this. So yeah, the radius shouldn't change this, but yeah, this should be a bug. Yeah, this is not uniform. This that is something a bug. But yeah, you can even have more variety if you would use two circles with different settings. So then you can use, for instance, you can do something like this, like flower, or you can make a tech-like thing like that, a little pixelated. You can do something like this. Yeah, you can just experiment with it, and it is great. So now we will be making a little bit the environment, but this is the main fractal part. So we can use in the mesh primitives the grid. I always search for plane, but it's the grid. And we will be hiring the scale and make it like this. And now we will be, so I want to have a little cutout for our fractals as shown in the previous video, in the preview video. And let's use in the geometry set position node, and let's join them together so we can see both like this. And let's change the viewport so we can see it a little bit better. And yeah, so we want to calculate the distance from our fractal to the grid, and we can do this within the geometry submenu, the geometry proximity node, and this just outputs us the distance from our fractal. And we can use this on the offset, and you can see something is working here. but we have obviously 2 less geometry. So let's turn this up, and it works. It looks currently a little bit weird, but we can fix this in a moment. Let me just drag it out here a little bit, like this. And at the moment, it displaces in every single axis. We don't want this, we only want it upwards, so in the Z axis. And let's use in the utility, no, vector, the combine XYZ node, and we only want to use the Z axis. So now it works, kind of. It's not the perfect result we want, but it looks like it's working. So now let's define the range where we want this. So let's take a map range node like this and just drag it after the geometry proximity node. And we want to use smoother step, so it's a little bit smoothed here. And let's just experiment with this a little bit so we can get something we want, something like this. And we have to make the resolution a bit higher so that we have nice results. Something like this should work. Not that intense, maybe. Yeah, something like this, maybe. And this does look great. So let's lower the resolution for tutorial purposes so it's not that laggy. And this is basically what we can do in the geometry nodes editor. And now let's do a little bit on the shading side, because at the moment this looks like crap. Let me be real. So I want to use a nice HDRI. So let's turn off the scene world in the rendered mode. And we can use something on here. And let's create a new material. So at the moment, this material does absolutely nothing. And this is because we've created something new here. You can see it. In the geometry nodes, we created something new. The group output is not used anymore. So the material is not used anymore. So we have to define the material. And for this, we will be using a set material node. It's obviously in the material submenu. And let's create the background first. And I want to define this material for it. And now it should, yes, it updates. And let's go into the shader editor. And I want to have it black, something like that. And oh, we can see the surface is a little bit pixelated. So there's a simple solution for it. We just have to go in the mesh submenu and we have to shade it smooth. And now it looks much better. So we want to have a glow here on the fall off. How can we do this? So we need the data from our geometry proximity node in the shading. So if you are a beginner, you can watch my Vector Wonderland course here on YouTube. And there I explain the input from attributes and outputs and everything from this. And you can watch this if you want to begin with geometry nodes and you are a beginner. So for us, if we want to output our geometry proximity node data, then we just have to use it on the group output as a new output here. And I will use the map range since we have manipulated it and we just only want this range here that we've defined by this map range node. And in the modifiers tab, we can define an attribute where we want to store it in. So I call it prox, like every time from the proximity node. And let's go into the shader editor. and we can import this with an attribute input node, and we can view it with the viewer from the node wrangler. And let's pull our prox attribute, and we can see, oh, there it is, there it is. And let's use it on the emission strength. So let's turn the emission color up so it does something, and we can see it's inverted. So let's grab a color ramp and set it to ease. And let's crop it a little, oh no, invert it. And let's crop this like this. So now it is glowing, yay! So now I want to have a little bit of color also in the fall off. So let's duplicate it. And we will be using the same on the emission color. And let's define the color a little bit better. So at the outside I want to have blue. In the inside I want to have orange. And in the middle there should be like a pinkish color. Maybe something like that. Yeah, this should work. So to look beautiful, we have to enable the bloom, and you can click ambient occlusion, and I'll just simply use the screen space reflection. So there's something like, yeah, simply reflection, like it's saying. And let's turn the emission strength up so bloom is enabled. So for this we will be using a math node, and we will be multiplying our result here so it is brighter. Just something like that. And this just alone looks beautiful, right? So I'll want to have a simply material for our fractal here. So let's create another one. And let's go into the geometry nodes editor because we have to define this material here. And this does not work. We can't use the same material. Of course we can, but we don't want this at the moment. And now we can manipulate our material. So I want to have it metallic, and the roughness should be a little bit down and a little bit golden. Something like this should be great. And this should be the tutorial. So comment of the week is from Third Guy, and he commented this nice comment, and this was on the Disney-like flower pattern I did that was inspired by the movie Encanto. This was a nice video, and thank you Third Guy for the comment. You are now comment of the week, so thank you. And you can check out my Gumroad. I have there some nice things I did. Christmas tree generator or something like that. The Disney inspired rose pattern. You can go on my Gumroad and look around. And thank you for watching. And I hope you liked it. I hope you've learned something. And if you have questions, you can ask me in the comments.